The story of Father Francis Browne, known as Frank, and his place in our story, the links between Titanic and Dundee, is an interesting one. He was born on the 3rd of January 1880 in Sunday's Well, a suburb of Cork City in Ireland. He was the 8th child of James Browne and Bridget Hegarty. He was baptised in the Roman Catholic Cathedral of Saints Anne and Mary in Cork. The day after his baptism, the 9th of January 1880, his mother died of childbed fever. He started school at Our Lady's Bower Convent School in Athlone, County Westmeath. From there, he moved to the Christian Brothers College in Cork. He spent his secondary education in Dublin, attending Belvedere College run by the Jesuits and Castleknock College in County Dublin under instruction from the priests of the Vincentian community. Tragedy struck during his school years. His father drowned across Haven, County Cork in 1889 when Frank was 9 years old. As he was now parentless, his uncle Robert Browne took on the role of father figure. This is probably a key moment in the link between Frank and the Titanic and Dundee. Robert Browne was made Bishop of Cloyne in 1884. The Diocese of Cloyne takes in the northern and eastern parts of County Cork. The cathedral for the diocese was St Coleman's Cathedral Cove, which was known as Queenstown at the time and was a major port of embarkation for Irish immigrants sailing to America. Frank finished his secondary education in 1897 and set out on a tour of Europe with his brother. He brought a new camera with him, and this holiday was the beginning of a lifelong love and interest in photography. In 1897, he entered Jesuit novitiate at Tullabeg in County Offaly. He took his first priestly vows in 1899, and then went on to study in University College Dublin. He was a contemporary of James Joyce at university, both young men having been schooled at Belvedere College. Indeed, Mr. Browne the Jesuit appears several times in Joyce's Finnegan's Wake. Frank graduated with an Honours BA degree in 1902. He was then sent to Chieri near Turin to study philosophy for 3 years. During this time, he studied the work of the old masters in galleries around Italy. This helped inform his composition of photographs for the rest of his life. He returned to Dublin in 1906 and took up a teaching post in Belvedere College. While there, he founded the Camera Club to encourage an interest in photography in others. In 1911, Frank moved to Milltown Park in Ranelagh, Dublin, to study at the Jesuit School of Theology located there. It was while studying there that his uncle, Bishop Robert Browne, offered him the opportunity to travel on the largest ship in the world, when she sailed from Southampton to Queenstown in April 1912. His uncle Robert had bought Frank a ticket for a 2-day cruise on RMS Titanic. To explain the circumstances around the purchase of the Titanic ticket, it is necessary to go back to Dundee in 1911. On Tuesday the 15th of August, an article appeared in the Dundee Courier on page 4. The headline read, "Sinister Sidelights on Home Rule. Irish Incidents Showing Feeling Towards Britain by One Who Has Lived in Ireland." The article went on to describe the situation in Ireland, where the South was ruled with an iron rod by the Catholic authorities and the North by the Protestants. Certain incidents were related to illustrate the above situation. The alleged incident, which is relevant to the Father Browne story, had a heading, "Religion Makes All the Difference." The article was on to say, and I quote, 2 years ago in Queenstown, County Cork, instructions were issued by the Roman Catholic religious authorities that all Protestant shop assistants were to be discharged. One shopkeeper, a Roman Catholic, refused to discharge an assistant he had had for a number of years. The consequence was that his shop was proclaimed, and in 3 months he had to close and clear out, his stock being sold for next to nothing. he and his family left for Britain, where, as he said, he could employ an atheist if he liked, end quote. There were other similar stories in the article, and the full text of the feature can be read in the book Dundee Man Lost at Sea. Not surprisingly, the article upset a lot of people. Among them was Robert Browne, Bishop of Cloyne, in whose diocese Queenstown was located. Basically, the bishop and 6 priests sued D.C. Thompson and Company Limited, the publishers and proprietors of the Dundee Courier, for injury to their reputations. The Courier's reporting of the legal proceedings is fully reproduced in the book Dundee Man Lost at Sea. The outcome of the court case was reported in the Dundee Courier on Monday, the 11th of March 1912. The bishop was awarded £200 damages and the 6 priests £50 each. This story was widely reported across the globe. The most remote report I could find was from the Grey River Argus, published in Greymouth, the largest town in the west coast region of the South Island of New Zealand. In itself, this story was a small affair and of little consequence to us over 100 years later. However, with the money Bishop Browne received in damages, he bought a first-class ticket for his nephew Frank to sail from Southampton to Queenstown. He almost certainly bought Frank a new camera as well. Frank travelled from London Waterloo to Southampton on the Titanic special. He sailed at noon on Wednesday, the 10th of April, stopping first at Cherbourg and then at Queenstown, where Frank disembarked. During the voyage, he took many photographs of Titanic. He took the only known photographs of the first-class dining room and the Marconi room. As well as supplying the money to buy the ticket for the voyage, Bishop Browne also gave Frank a letter of introduction to his old friend Hugh McElroy, the chief purser on Titanic. Frank and the chief purser got on well, and Frank was given the run of the ship within reason. Because of his freedom of movement, Frank was able to photograph second class and steerage as well as first class facilities. When Frank went to the first class dining room on the first night of the voyage, he was sitting with a wealthy American couple. They got on well, and the couple offered to pay for Frank to sail to New York. He said he would need to seek permission of his provincial in Dublin. His provincial was Father William Delaney. They went to the Marconi room and sent a telegram to Father Delaney in Dublin. The response was quick and to the point. "Get off that ship. Stop, provincial." This curt response not only probably saved Frank's life, but also the portfolio of wonderful photographs that he took of Titanic, not to mention the other photographs he took over the rest of his life, nearly 42,000 in all. Frank was ordained to the priesthood by his uncle on the 31st of July 1915. His first assignment was as chaplain to the Irish Guards. At that time they were serving on the front line in France and Flanders. As chaplain, he was remembered fondly as being completely dedicated to his troops. He was injured 5 times and had his lungs damaged by mustard gas in 1918. He earned the Military Cross with Bar from the British and the Croix de Guerre from the French. He was demobilised in 1920 and returned to Dublin, where he was appointed superior of St. Francis Xavier Church in Dublin. However, his health deteriorated, mainly due to the lung damage sustained in 1918. The medical advice he received was to go on an ocean voyage and stay in a warmer climate. This resulted in Father Browne spending 2 years in Australia, taking many photographs across the continent. He returned to Dublin in 1925 and 2 years later became a member of the retreats and mission staff of the Irish Jesuits. This involved him preaching in nearly every parish in Ireland, as well as many parishes in England, Scotland and Wales. He preached mainly in the evening, which left the daytime free for photography. In 1927, he became one of the 3 vice presidents of the Irish International Salon of Photography. During the 1930s, he was appointed by several Irish government departments, the governing body of the Church of England and the British Museum to do photographic work on their behalf. He wrote articles related to photography for many periodicals. Through his friendship with the managing director of Kodak, Great Britain, George Davidson, he was given free film for the rest of his life. He died on the 7th of July 1960 and is buried in the Jesuit plot in Glasnevin Cemetery in Dublin. When he died, Father Browne's negatives were placed in the Jesuit archive in Dublin and basically forgotten about. In 1985, Father Eddie O'Donnell was consulting the archive when he noticed a trunk. He cleared the area around the trunk and saw the words Father Browne's photographs chalked on the lid. It did not mean much to Father O'Donnell. But when he opened the lid, he was amazed to find it packed with wallets of negatives. It was a treasure trove. After much work by Father O'Donnell, a collection of Titanic photographs was published by him in 1997. These photographs show that Father Browne had an obviously good photographic eye. The Titanic tragedy on its maiden voyage adds interest and poignancy to the photographs. Clearly, if Titanic had given many years of faithful service on the transatlantic route, countless photographs of her would have been taken. But as things turned out, Father Browne's photographs became a real treasure. This photograph is the last one taken by Father Browne of Titanic as she left Queenstown, bound for New York. We will never know why the Dundee Courier published the article that caused Bishop Browne and his curates to sue the newspaper. Regardless, it led to a sequence of events that gives us all, but Titanic lovers in particular, a wonderful collection of photographs of the magnificent but short-lived liner. More details of the above material are available in the book Dundee Man Lost at Sea, available from the email address on screen. The 4th installment will appear in due course. Thank you.